from Los Angeles, this is the Echelon Radio Network.
Good morning. This is Jerry Hemsworth with the Echelon Radio Podcast. And it's a beautiful, beautiful Friday morning. And unfortunately, I'm sitting here in a studio with no windows. But fortunately, my guest is David Schneider. How are you doing, David?
I'm doing great, Jerry. Thanks for having me.
So you're an attorney, and I've known you for a number of years.
Been a while now.
Yeah. Tell us what kind of law you practice, because I think you do some cool stuff.
I'm an estate planning attorney, which means I help people to develop their estate plan, wills, trusts, power of attorney. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm a probate attorney, meaning I'm helping those families that didn't properly plan through probate proceedings, helping to get those assets to the next generation. And then in addition to that, I help people with limited conservatorships.
Limited conservatorships. What is that exactly?
So when a family has a child, an autistic child, somebody on the spectrum, Asperger's, things like that, the parents are obviously in charge of children, just as you and I were. But when the child becomes 18, just like in your family and mine, the
That's
child's
what happens
an
when
adult.
you feed them, right?
Well, yeah.
Hopefully.
If you feed them, you educate them, you provide them with a little bit of clothing.
They grow.
And with any luck at all,
Yes.
they grow beyond us.
Yes.
They succeed us. But some kids won't. And those are the kids that are on the spectrum.
Gotcha.
So now they're adults, but they can't advocate for themselves. So we utilize something called a limited conservatorship. And this is essentially allowing the parents to stay in the role that they had been in, to be able to make decisions where they're going to live, healthcare decisions.
I was going to say doctors.
And interactions with schools.
Gotcha.
Their ability, handling their ability to enter into a contract. Some kids will be very high on the spectrum, only need a little bit of help. Some kids will be much lower and need all the help, all the decisions.
Right.
So California instituted a number of years ago a different conservatorship proceeding that's designed specifically just for them, called a limited conservatorship.
Okay.
And it's nice because these courts, most courts are adversarial courts. You have an attorney, I have an attorney, and they're going to knock heads together.
Sure.
In limited conservatorship, the conservatee, that's the child who's now become an adult, they have counsel that's assigned to them usually through the court system. And then I represent typically the parents, or maybe it's the aunt or the older sibling or somebody, to bring this process forward. And of course, we have the judge on the bench. Well, in the limited conservatorship, all three of us are essentially working in the same direction.
Gotcha.
It's really not adversarial in the sense that we're trying to protect our client's rights, so is the counsel for the child.
Yes.
But we're working together. We talk to each other. And if we have disagreements about what types of control the child needs, we're going to talk it out and we're going to reason it together. So it's nice. Many times when you're in court, you get an answer for your client. Maybe it's complete, maybe it isn't. These answers are complete. We get to finality and we get to where everybody wants to go. And so it's a rewarding
I was going to say, it sounds like a very feel-good experience and very, for you as a human and a kind and giving human must feel, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well,
this is my gift.
Well, yeah, the opportunity to guide somebody through this process.
Yes.
They're very form-driven, they're very difficult, and they're very meticulous. You mess up on a form, you don't check a box. All right, we're going to continue you out 30 days. And in LA County and in Ventura County, there isn't a 30-day calendar.
Oh.
The courts are so jammed up that when you get a continuance, it's 60 days plus. And this can also rack up attorney's fees.
I was going to say that, and there could be some devastating consequences to that, I would imagine.
Yes, timing. You were trying to get before the kid's school counselor, or you have an IEP coming up. I have a client that's got some travel concerns coming up.
Sure.
And nobody wants to be there in the first place.
Right.
And now you have to come back, and you have to take more time off work, and you got to pay your attorney more money, and the
stress.
So when you can work with somebody who has done a lot of these things and knows where they're going and understands, these particular judges, what they like, how they feel about certain things, it's very. It's very important because, a lot of people will try to do these things on their own.
Yeah, I bet.
And they say, "Oh, I don't need, the attorney fees or whatever." And
right.
You're in court. You're there on your matter, and you're watching them struggle as they try to get through it. So anyway, it's important work, and it's work I enjoy.
How did you get into that part of estate planning law?
Well, a lot of families were coming to me with, again, kids on the spectrum, and I had to learn very quickly about how to protect those children. Most of these children are still going to outlive their parents. They can't handle money. They can't handle property. They're going to inherit if we don't do something.
Right.
So there's a mechanism in estate planning called a special needs trust.
Okay.
And so we utilize that to restrict the flow of the dough, the money, the property, to the child by holding it in this special trust. And it allows the successor trustee to continue to manage that throughout their life. The assets are not counted against them, so they can't be bounced out of any government programs that they're qualifying for. When the kid turns 18, the kid is at the poverty level. So the kid qualifies for, like the EBT food card, qualifies for Covered California, can get housing assistance. Well, these things are based on wealth. So now this child that's on the spectrum who everything in their life is based on routine. That's so paramount important to not change the routine.
Yes.
Well, they inherit. They can't control it. They don't have the means, the skills, and then they get bounced out of their programs. So there has to be a method to not let them get that money, but yet have that money for their needs to benefit them. And that's called a special needs trust. Well, as I started learning more about that, then I had to start to learn more about what their rights were outside of this as the parents were trying to interact with these other institutions. And that's how I learned about the conservatorship program and specifically the limited conservatorship program. So it was, 20 years ago, it was a little bit of trial and error.
Sure.
And now it's just through experience.
Gosh, it's absolutely amazing. What percentage of your work would you say is probate versus estate planning?
Well, right now I'm probably a little bit heavy in probate from what maybe I was a couple of years ago. So probably around 30 to 35%.
Okay.
Maybe. It is frankly quite stunning, the number of how many families have not planned. And it takes so little to trigger a probate proceeding in the state of California.
Exactly.
There's three elements or three factors that you have to clip. And these are, I describe this to clients as these are and rules. You have to have 1 and 2 and 3.
Gotcha.
Rule number 1, you have to die.
Oh.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, and that's actually not very hard.
That's a tough one.
No, it's not very hard to do, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's a tough one to get, think about, too. Number one must happen before the others.
Well, yeah. And, if we look at the statistics, not just nationwide, but statewide, 10 out of 10 people age 72 or older are going to die.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Got it.
So we know that's coming. All right. So number 1, you have to pass away. Number 2, you have to own assets in your own name.
Okay.
Like a house.
Right.
You own the house at 123 Apple Street.
Right.
Number 3, the property you own in your own name when you die must be valued, gross value, not net equity. 61.5 in real estate or 184.5 in personal property.
Okay.
So, is there anybody who owns a home in the state of California valued less than 61.5?
No.
No. I mean, it just doesn't exist. So,
I mean, my dog maybe, but his house is small.
I've seen your dog.
Yeah.
And he looks pretty well off.
He does. He does have creature comforts, that's for sure.
So what happens is that a lot of families will think, well, I'm just a guy here in the valley. It's not a big deal. My home, I don't know. It's like any other home. It's 1,800 square feet. It's not a big deal. But the values of these homes have risen to such a degree. But they have this idea in their mind that, well, an estate plan, that's what rich people do. I mean, it uses the word estate.
Estate.
Right.
But you think grand
a castle
manors.
And a moat and that kind of stuff.
Yes,
right?
Dragons, everything.
So the families don't properly plan.
Yes.
And then the kid calls me up and says, I want to sell my home, or I want to sell my parents' home, but the title company keeps saying I need letters. Can you write me some letters? And I said, no, letters are what's issued by the probate court.
Gotcha.
And so that's what's happening there. And it tends to, without any kind of set pattern, it tends to ebb and flow a bit. I'll go through a period of time where I won't pick up any new cases, and then 1 week I'll pick up 3. And this is one of those weeks, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm always surprised as you the number of people who are afraid of an estate plan because of A, the fees, but B, thinking they don't need it. And I tell anybody I know, if you own any property of value, you must, because getting caught, or we don't feel the pain if we don't have the estate.
Yeah, it's not our problem.
It's our children or our relatives. And having been an executrix and also been, for probates, 2 probates concurrent, and for my parents' estate, I don't wish a probate on any child. It's long. It's not necessarily painful, but it's detail-oriented. And you're many times calling debtors and trying to pay off some debts or negotiating, but there's a set time period. You can't rush these things.
No. Right now, the state average is about 1.5 years.
Yes.
Now, I practice in Thousand Oaks. I'm in Ventura County, and so I handle probates in Ventura County. I handle them in LA County, and now post-COVID, I actually handle them throughout the state because I can appear virtually.
Right.
But Ventura County has 1 probate court.
Wow.
To handle the entire county.
Wow.
Now, in LA County, there's 8 probate courts.
Okay.
But it's a county of 30 million people.
Sure. Still
trying to
sounds small.
funnel through this thing, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at a state average that says it might take us 1.5 years,
yes,
often we're at 2 years.
Yeah.
During which time there are no distributions.
Nope.
This is when Johnny comes to me and says, well, my dad was paying my tuition.
Yes.
So great, Johnny. What I need you to do is focus. I need you to buckle down. I need you to get a job.
Yeah. Because
there's no plan.
Yeah.
That's
and the money stops flowing very quickly.
Exactly right.
And it can be devastating if somebody didn't realize it.
Not only that, but sometimes we're going to then subsequently in a lump sum deliver money to somebody who shouldn't receive it.
Right.
Notwithstanding the special needs kids I was talking about.
Right.
Your kid just turned 19 and he's going to pick up $800 large in cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's usually a recipe for success. Yeah.
Boy.
So estate planning is literally something that everybody needs.
So essential.
And everybody that needs this.
Essential.
Yeah. So it's worth...
And updating.
Well,
I'm learning that too.
That's another important point.
Yeah.
I see a ton of stale documents. Last night, my last appointment of the day, I met with somebody. The plan was written in 1993.
Hello.
Never touched.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Okay.
They said, well, can't you fix those pages?
No. No.
I said, that's a lot of pages to fix.
Yeah.
I think what we'll do is we'll
start
clean it up. We're not gonna we're gonna save the name.
Right.
So, any assets that we're titled to, we don't have to touch those.
Right.
But yeah, this is a full rewrite. They're not meant to be set and forget.
Right.
Put up on the shelf.
That's exactly what I have learned over time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they can grow stale.
Yes. And it's better to keep them updated as you go, as you acquire or get rid of assets, or it could be even bank accounts and you don't even realize. And I'm speaking from experience that you open a new bank account that has some cash in it. You should put it probably in the trust.
Yeah, we want to have as many assets as possible.
Yes.
Titled in the name of the trust. But when they grow stale,
Yeah.
you've named these persons to be the trustees.
Right.
They're not there anymore. They've moved on. They're past. They have their own issues.
Right.
And then I'll tell you, frankly, this is a problem that came up a couple of times just this last week. The family tells me that they named their the husband. He named his brother the beneficiary of the life insurance because his children were little and they couldn't inherit the money.
Right.
So the brother's going to get the money to take care of the kids, right? And I don't know that that's right.
Right.
A, I don't know your brother. B, if your brother inherits it and he subsequently passes away, it's going to your nieces and nephews.
Yeah, not
and
to your
they don't owe
kids.
any allegiance to their cousins.
No.
What are you doing? You
Yeah.
can't do that. And when the trust is in place, we could have had that money come into the trust. The successor trustee, whether it's the brother or the sister, whoever it's going to be, would manage that dough.
Yes.
And it's just done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I see all kinds of interesting things, the ideas that people think up on their own to how they're going to deal with these issues. And
most of the time, not really legally, I bet.
well, it's not as much how legal or illegal, but just here's something that you might find weird. I look at people in their worst light, not their best light. You actually pay me to think that way.
Sure.
I'm looking at how your brother is going to screw over his niece
Absolutely.
and nephew.
Yes.
How these friends treat you.
Yes.
One sibling versus the other.
Yes.
I'm paid to look at people in their worst way, not their
Yes.
best way, because that's really the only way I can protect you.
Exactly.
Is
I can.
thinking
Yes.
that way.
Yeah.
So.
Think evilly in order to prevent evil.
Right. It's just simply being prepared.
Sure, absolutely.
And so there's a number of people that will kind of get uncomfortable with that. They'll look at me cross-eyed. How could you even think that about my sister?
Trust me.
Yeah.
All it takes is mom and dad to die, and suddenly you're thinking that about your sister.
Exactly. Or better yet, why don't you come with me to court one day and just sit and watch, what's going on with these people.
Unfortunately.
So, and then the other funny thing is, almost to a person, everybody who walks through my front door is coming to see me because, well, we're going to die at some point. We need a plan. And I don't actually think that. I look at everybody is going to live. What happens if you live? We, need to protect this dough for you. You worked for it.
Yes.
It's not for your children.
Right.
Okay. With any luck at all, like we said earlier, you clothed them, you fed them, you educated them. They've grown up to succeed you.
Yes.
And that this
Good
is your
point.
dough. I'm trying to protect you.
Yes.
But secondly, you might not die. You could become incapacitated.
Yeah, that's a toughie.
It is.
Yes.
But the numbers scream at us. 1 in 3 persons aged 68 or older will have a significant period of incapacity before the end of the game.
Yes.
I was working with a client, again, just yesterday, and he kept steering the conversation back to, well, when we die, this and this and this will happen. And it had to be about half a dozen times. And I said, you might not die. He says, but I have a beneficiary designation on this life insurance. Yes, beneficiaries get paid when you die. What happens when you become incapacitated? How can we access this dough?
Yes.
So it's trying to educate the client to think about the big
Such a good
picture.
point, David.
So,
Such a good point. I know when I lost my father, and I was I was taking care of the trust, and I sold some real estate, family real estate that my mom said, yes, go ahead and sell it. And we would literally were never thinking that Mom would get sick, or that we thought, okay, now she might be able to live a little bit different. Dad was not incapacitated, but very limited. And we thought now she can travel maybe, and she has this little nest egg. And we were literally getting ready to meet with a financial advisor on investing this money from this property. And then my mom got sick.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, she passed about 15, 16 months after my father.
Very common.
And it was nothing any of us 4 children saw coming.
Right.
Not even we, and I don't think Mom even saw it coming. I mean, she, and so, fortunately, my dad, as I say, he woke up dead, passed in his sleep.
Very, very fortunate.
But my mother did not, and it was fortunately I had that money to pay for her when she was incapacitated.
Yes.
Because she outlived the 100 days of, what is it, Medicare that pays for,
right.
Yeah,
it's very limited.
And then, but she couldn't go home and live on her own. Mm-hmm. And suddenly I thought, holy crap, this wasn't planned for.
Right.
And if I hadn't had sold that property, would never have been able to afford her care.
Right. Most people will tell me, I want to remain at home. I'd like to remain at home as long as possible.
As long as possible.
And most people don't realize just how impractical that really is.
And now how bloody expensive that is.
It's tremendous. I was speaking with a friend of mine last week that deals in home healthcare, providing people as companions, people to watch that help cook and prepare. And she was telling me a number of $22,000 a month. Now, my own mother has to live in assisted living, and her care is roughly $7,500 a month. Would she have rather have lived in her home? I believe that that's true.
Yes.
Was that actually the best thing for her? No, it wasn't. Right. She was isolated. She antisocial, and not eating properly.
Right.
So at that point, it's you make very difficult decisions.
Yes.
And you have to put on your big boy pants.
Very big boy pants.
Explain. These are the facts of life.
Yes.
I often compare it to raising children.
Yes. Yes. Your parents do become your children.
Exactly. A different client emailed me. So my mom keeps insisting on driving, and she's a danger to everybody, including manhole cover. And what do I do? So take the keys away. Well, she's threatening me. I said,
what?
When your 15-year-old threw a tantrum, did you toss him the keys?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to step up. This is, believe it or not, what they want you to do.
Yes.
They just don't consciously know that today. But when they created these forms, power of attorney, trust, and they said, Jerry, we're going to put you in charge, it's because they trusted you.
Yes.
They had confidence in you that you would be there to act when they couldn't.
Yes.
And now that they can't act, they're no longer thinking rationally.
Right.
And the other strange concept that comes into play is that most people are going to say, well, that's when I get older. There's nothing that says that dementia is generally considered something that happens when you're older. But there are many debilitating issues that could cause a person in their 30s or 40s,
Absolutely.
50s to have a lack of capacity.
Sure.
So
strokes hit at every age.
Absolutely.
And things like that.
Yeah. So a lot of the things that I'm dealing with are breaking down these walls of these preconceived notions of how an estate plan works or why it works the way it does. And frankly, I spend the bulk of my time with clients teaching.
I bet.
It takes me, of course, time to draft documents and to figure out what they actually want. But if I spend on an average 5 hours with a client, almost 4 of them are teaching.
Gotcha.
This is why we're doing it. An educated client is the best client.
Oh.
Educated clients do 2 things really well. They follow instructions. They follow through. I create the trust. I help title the home in the trust, but you have to go to the bank. You have to go to the brokerage house, the life insurance.
Legwork.
I need you to do it. And if you don't understand it, you don't have the motivation. You don't see the end game. So an educated client follows through. The second thing I love about educated clients, they refer.
Nice.
They go out and they tell somebody else. You know what? Dave did a good job. He broke it down. I understand it. And you got to go see my friend Dave.
Nice.
So
yeah,
it helps feed itself.
Dave, I'm going to switch around. What do you do when you're not in your law firm and you're not practicing law? What is your favorite hobby?
Well, my favorite hobby is probably poker.
Poker?
I play poker.
Do you now?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, in fact, we're getting ready, planning our vacations, or I should say my vacation.
I was going to say,
World
hour?
Series. No, it's not hour. No, that's when in June there's a couple of weeks where my wife becomes the poker widow. Oh. And I go off to the World Series of Poker.
Do you?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I have that coming up. I have a couple of weeks scheduled, a week there, a week back, week there again. So
and where's it at?
This is in Las Vegas.
Of course.
Yeah, at the Horseshoe.
Okay.
And they'll cycle hundreds of thousands of people through these various tournaments. And I've got 4 different tournaments I've got pegged on my calendar that I'm going to play. And, for the last several years, I've been playing for a long time, but the last several years I've kind of put a little bit more focus on tournament play. I love to play for cash. That's really my thing.
Well, hello.
Let's go sit down on
Who
Saturday
wouldn't,
night
right?
and,
If you got skills.
Yeah, go take somebody else's money. But the 2 summers ago in one of the senior events, there was about 3,800 players, and I finished 36.
Are you kidding?
No. And then...
Okay, so you're not like a schlub at this.
No, I have a little bit of experience.
Okay, all right.
I've been playing as a serious amateur for about 20 years.
Holy smokes, how'd you get into this?
I'm not really sure exactly. I think I stumbled upon it, found that I was good, kind of mucked my way around, and then when the poker boom came, I'd already been playing for a while, but when that came way back in 2003, I started actually studying poker.
Whoa.
And, figuring out where the game was going. And it just is kind of a natural flow. I will tell you, a lot of attorneys play poker. I think it has to do with some of the training that we get, our attention to detail, reading between the lines. It's not uncommon for me
reading people.
It's not uncommon for me to sit at a game and there might be 2 or 3 other lawyers at the table.
Really?
Yeah. So that's very common.
Now, are you one of those players that dons the hat, the sunglasses, so people can't see your eyeballs?
I used to wear the glasses a lot. And then,
why am I not surprised? I can see you.
Well, a couple of times when I've been in studios where there's bright lights, I'll still wear them.
Yeah,
but,
I bet.
Actually, since the pandemic, when the poker rooms opened back up, I stopped wearing the glasses. I just felt it was changing people's perception of me in a way that no longer fit what I wanted to tell them. Often I'm one of the older guys at the table. So I have there's a preconceived notion as to who I am and how I might play the game. And then wearing the glasses was counterintuitive to
Interesting.
that. I'd rather be thought of, there's some people at the table that say, hey, Papa, how are you?
Yeah.
And I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah.
And they put a stereotype on me how I might play, and then I can use that to my advantage.
Sure.
Well, the glasses are actually, like I said, opposite to that.
Gotcha.
So I took them off.
Yeah. So do you show up in T-shirt and sweats?
Usually, actually, funny enough, I have, well, not sweats. I'm not a sweats guy. But I often have a jacket that has some kind of racing emblems on it. Because if I have to name a second hobby, it's Corvette racing.
Okay.
And so...
hence the bright blue Corvette sitting in the driveway.
Yes, I drove. It's Friday.
Yeah, it's Corvette
Friday. So I'll, but they're very casual clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. My the reason I asked that is I learned about that technique from my mother-in-law, who she had money, but she had an affinity for garage sales.
Okay. Yeah.
She called them Saturday stores.
Sure.
And her dealio was never wear nice clothes and always take a coin purse filled with coins, not dollar bills.
Right. You got to make change.
Exactly.
Right.
And sort of, it was the stereotype. It was sort of the perception. And I said, well, then stop showing up in your damn Mercedes, Let's take my Honda, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. It's similar.
Yes. But, oh my gosh, I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So how many times do you play in a week, would you say?
Right now, I play 1 day a week.
Okay.
I usually will play on Saturday nights. I'll drive into the city and play in a real casino.
All right.
I'll often talk to people and they'll ask about this. And, we have a game. We have a Friday night game, the guys. And we do this. We play, 50 cent dollar or whatever. And you got to come and play. Well, maybe I can find some time to do that. Well, where do you like to play? Well, I'm usually playing the 5-5-10 down at Gardens or Commerce, and or in the series. I love to play there. Yeah, you're not invited.
Oh,
I get uninvited to more games.
You're too serious. You're too good.
Well, they don't know because they never played.
Sure,
but, funny enough, a little bit before the pandemic, I was playing a lot, and it literally started to become a job. Wow. And I said, well, wait a minute, I don't need this.
Yeah.
I work for a living.
Yeah.
And so I cut back, and I'm happier doing it.
I bet.
And, I stepped up a level of the game at the stakes that I'm playing, and it's more enjoyable. And more often than not, they're winners, not every time. That's usually a long drive home. As I'm pounding.
Suddenly the route seems so much longer.
I'm pounding the ceiling. Why did I play that hand that way? And
I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, and that's something. I study the game, and I'm reading and I'm working it out, and I remember hands. I go home and I'll talk to them with somebody else about it and say, hey, this is what I did. What do you think?
Wow.
Going here or there. And yes, there's a hand actually from this last Saturday that's haunting me still.
Oh.
So I really got to get it out of my head.
PTSD.
Yeah, little bit. It's about a $3,000 mistake.
Ouchie.
Yeah.
Do you keep a separate account for your funny money?
Yes.
Nice.
I have only that money. And, my wife, bless her, she truly understands, and she knows that that's not the house money, it's not the rent money, that's that.
But you do give her a percentage, I have to imagine.
I give her everything
Toleration
she asks for.
Percentage.
Everything she asks for. You want this, you want that, whatever the heck it is. But the $100 bills,
yes,
they're tools. And it's just the same as the tools that are in your tool chest. This is what I need to go do that. And with any luck at all, I'm going to bring home more than I took with me. And I do, more often than not.
Nice.
But, there are some knots.
Yeah.
And so Sunday morning, we are going out to brunch, and she will eventually, sooner or later, ask, well, how did it go?
How did it go?
And, she kind of knows the vibe. she, if I haven't said something, she says, yeah, so last night wasn't
very productive.
And frankly, I think that she'd be a really good player. She knows.
Yeah.
Because she listens.
Yeah. Sure. And we absorb a lot from what you guys emit.
Yeah. But, when we go to Vegas together on a holiday, her thing is the spa and the shop.
Yeah, sign me up.
And then
Yep.
I go play cards so I can go pay for the spa and the shopping.
Damn, you better win. Because it's probably more than one trip.
Well, yeah, and I'm not beyond telling the other person at the table.
Yes.
I said, hey, guys.
Do me a solid. I got the wife in the spa.
My wife's at the spa. She's over at Caesar's Mall, so I raise.
Oh, David, thank you so much for sitting with me today. This is such a great, great time. And I love learning. Every time I talk to you, I learn more and more about what you do. And it's great to hear. You write great articles, and they're one of our most highly trafficked articles on the website at echelonprofessional.com. And keep it up. It's very, very much needed and commendable. So thank you.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me. The terrific questions. And, if I could just say one last thing.
Please.
It's about everybody wants to go out and earn a living, but I get to enjoy earning my living. So that's the part.
That's what we should all strive for.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Presented by Echelon Business Development. More than just networking. Way more.